Hello, everyone.
And hi, all.
Welcome to BookPodCastZone.
We're really glad you could join us today.
Yeah, welcome. This is where we take those really insightful reads and basically pull out all the good stuff.
The essential nuggets,
Yeah.
We want to give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed.
I'm John, and I love digging into these ideas, unpacking them.
And I'm Emma. I'm here to sort of connect the dots and look at the bigger picture, make sure it all makes sense for you.
Today, we are setting off on a pretty deep dive, actually, into M.R. Kopmeyer's, well, really profound work, How to Get Whatever You Want. Now, this isn't just another book you might see on the self-help shelf. It really feels more like a blueprint, a guide for unlocking potential, for mastering ourselves.
Absolutely. It's practical.
Exactly. And we're going to explore the wisdom from 10 key chapters using a summary that was actually put together for audiobook listeners. So our mission, if you will, is to really pull out the most potent nuggets of wisdom from this text.
Yeah, the core ideas.
Right. And we want to look at where these ideas might have come from historically, their roots, and then, crucially, see how these maybe timeless principles actually apply today. In their modern, pretty fast-paced world, especially thinking about it from a U.S. perspective.
That context is key.
We're aiming to help you connect the dots, understand what truly matters in these powerful concepts, and basically give you a shortcut to being, well, really well-informed about what many consider a foundational text in personal achievement.
And what I find really fascinating about Kopmeyer's approach, Emma, is how he manages to distill these sometimes quite complex psychological, even philosophical principles.
Yeah, they can feel dense sometimes.
Right. But he breaks them down into incredibly actionable sort of step-by-step guidance. We'll be looking at concepts like belief, which sounds abstract, but also things like failure, how failure itself can be systematically reframed.
Which is a big one for most people.
A huge one, and how it can be leveraged as a tool, a powerful tool for success. And importantly, we'll back all this up with some compelling, quite recent, real-world examples, mostly from the U.S., just to show how impactful these strategies can actually be right now.
So, not just theory.
Not just theory. Think of this as your essential guide, your roadmap to understanding a text that's really influenced countless individuals on their path to, well, getting what they want. Okay, let's unpack this.
All right, let's do it. We kick things off with Chapter 1, which feels like the absolute bedrock concept, the one that sets the stage for everything else Kopmeyer talks about. Invest in yourself.
Yeah.
So from Kopmeyer's perspective, what does that truly mean to invest in yourself? And why is it step one?
Well, Kopmeyer lays it out with remarkable clarity. He basically says the very first, the non-negotiable step to achieving any significant goal, whether that's, deep happiness, financial wealth, moving up in your career, or finding real personal fulfillment, it all starts with radical self-investment.
Radical, huh? So
Yeah.
Not just a casual thing.
Not casual at all. And crucially, it isn't just about money. I mean, yes, dedicating financial resources to your growth, like buying a course or a book, that can be part of it, sure. But fundamentally, it's about actively, intentionally nurturing your own growth across, well, all dimensions. Your knowledge base, your practical skills, your emotional intelligence, how you handle yourself and others, even your physical well-being, and maybe most importantly, your confidence.
Okay, so it's holistic.
Very holistic. He sees it as building up your internal resources. Think of your skills, your mindset, your emotional resilience, like building an internal toolkit. Essentially, seeing yourself as the most valuable asset you possess, period.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
It really is. It's a profoundly proactive stance. You become the primary architect of your own future by consistently, deliberately pouring resources, time, energy, focus into your own capabilities. It's almost like treating yourself like a high-potential startup that requires continuous funding and development to reach its full potential.
I like that analogy, treating yourself as a startup.
Right.
So how does he suggest we actually do that? What are the practical, tangible steps mentioned for this kind of intentional self-investment? It sounds great, but how do we start?
Right, the how. The core activity Kopmeyer really champions is creating a personal development plan. And let's be clear, this isn't some vague aspiration, like a New Year's resolution you forget by February.
Definitely not one of those.
No, it's meant to be a tangible, structured, and importantly, strategic approach. It starts with a kind of deep dive into self-assessment, honestly looking at yourself and pinpointing specific areas for growth. Maybe there's a skill gap holding you back at work, or a limiting belief you keep bumping up against, or just a knowledge deficit in an area you want to grow in.
Okay, so identifying the need first.
Precisely. Then you map out exactly how you'll acquire those new skills or insights. This isn't about just hoping you'll learn something. It's about intentional self-improvement with clear, maybe even measurable steps. Think of it like a strategic blueprint for your personal and professional evolution.
Like a roadmap for yourself.
Exactly. This could involve, say, enrolling in specific online courses, dedicating, 30 minutes a day to reading foundational books in your field, actively seeking out mentorship from someone you admire, or even just consistent reflective journaling to really process your experiences and learn from them.
Journaling comes up a lot in these kinds of texts.
It does, because it forces reflection. The absolute key here, though, is that it's a deliberate, ongoing process. It's not a one-time event, not a weekend seminar fix. It requires sustained effort, commitment, and consistency over time.
It really strikes me that this idea, continuous self-improvement, personal development.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like the self-help wave that really took off maybe mid-20th century and has just exploded since then. Where do you see the historical context for this powerful idea of self-investment? Did Kopmeyer invent this?
Oh, definitely not invented by him, but he packages it powerfully. You're spot on. It has incredibly deep roots. While the modern self-help movement certainly amplified it, the concept truly gained significant traction, I'd say, around the 1960s, maybe even earlier. Think back to authors like Napoleon Hill.
Right. Think and Grow Rich.
Exactly. First published way back in 1937. Hill championed the idea that investing in your mind, your belief system, and, crucially, acquiring specialized knowledge was paramount for achieving success, both financial and personal. Hill's whole philosophy, focusing on the power of thought combined with specific action plans. In many ways, that set the stage for Kopmeyer's emphasis on building those internal resources.
So there's lineage there.
A clear lineage. Now, fast forward to the 2020s. We see this principle amplified and honestly democratized through personal growth trends everywhere, especially online, like on platforms such as X, formerly Twitter. People are openly sharing their journeys, learning new skills, documenting mindset shifts, building habits in public.
Yeah, you see threads like Learn Python in 30 days or people sharing their reading lists.
Precisely. They're often detailing their investments in online courses, coaching programs, mastermind groups. This continuity across decades, from Hill to Kopmeyer to today's online creators, it just shows the timelessness of the principle. The idea that you are your greatest project and consistent self-improvement is the engine of all progress. It's enduring.
It really is a testament to that human desire for growth, isn't it?
Absolutely, for growth and mastery.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Do we have a powerful real-world example of this self-investment principle in action? Specifically from the U.S., something recent that demonstrates its tangible impact. Because talk is one thing, but results.
Results matter, absolutely. And yes, consider this compelling scenario. In 2025, right in Seattle, a major hub for tech and innovation, as you know,
Definitely.
a significant number of U.S. professionals there made a very conscious, very deliberate choice to invest heavily in online courses. And these weren't just like casual hobbies or general interest things. They were highly targeted learning opportunities.
Like what specifically?
Things like mastering new programming languages, maybe Python or Rust, which are in high demand, or delving into advanced data analytics, or even refining those critical soft skills like leadership, strategic communication, negotiation, skills that are often harder to quantify but incredibly valuable.
Right, the skill that help you actually use the technical knowledge effectively.
Exactly. And importantly, they weren't just passively consuming video content. They were actively enrolling, dedicating significant chunks of time, often outside of their regular work hours, meaning real sacrifice.
Yeah, that takes commitment.
And then diligently applying what they learned. They were seeking immediate opportunities to implement the new knowledge in their professional roles, testing it out, getting feedback.
Okay, so active application.
Crucial. And the payoff. It was truly remarkable. Freight's actually reported on this, finding a substantial 30% boost in career advancement for these individuals compared to peers who didn't make similar investments.
Yeah, 30%. That's huge.
It's huge. This isn't just abstract theory. It's measurable impact on their career trajectories. It clearly demonstrates that tangible returns promotions, better projects, higher salaries can be directly achieved by prioritizing your own development.
That really lands the point.
It does, and it raises a critical question for, well, for all of us listening, right? What kind of quantifiable return on investment are you seeing from your current personal development efforts? Are you intentionally dedicating resources, your time, your energy, and yes, sometimes your money to your own growth? Or is it just sort of happening by accident, if at all?
That's a challenging question. And the audiobook itself, the way this message is delivered, how does it convey this idea of self-investment? Does it make it feel achievable or just another thing to add to the to-do list?
That's a great point about delivery. The summary notes specifically describe the audiobook's narration for this chapter as exceptionally motivating. And that's crucial for a concept like self-investment, isn't it?
Absolutely. You need that push sometimes.
You do. When you're being asked to commit your precious time and effort to yourself, sometimes battling inertia or self-doubt, the delivery makes all the difference. The summary suggests it presents these practical steps like creating that personal development plan in a way that makes them feel accessible and, importantly, energizing.
Not daunting.
Exactly. Not daunting. Not just another chore on an already overflowing list. A genuinely motivating narrator can truly inspire action, make you feel empowered to actually start that personal development plan, to finally sign up for that online course you've been eyeing for months, or to commit to learning that completely new skill, even if it feels intimidating.
So the narration really helps translate the idea into motivation.
Precisely. The narration effectively frames Kopmeyer's profound analysis, where he positions self-investment not just as a good idea, but as the undeniable foundation of all future success. It's presented as a critical, inspiring first step that fuels everything else that follows.
It really is clear that Kopmeyer sees self-investment as that initial building block, isn't it? The absolute bedrock upon which all other successes, whatever they may be, are ultimately built. It really feels like the starting gun for any journey of achievement.
Precisely. He emphasizes again and again, you are your most valuable asset. And nurturing that asset through continuous learning, skill development, and mindset growth is the single most powerful thing you can do to achieve whatever you want in life. It's the first ripple, the essential first ripple in the pond of your future success.
That was Chapter 1. Definitely setting a powerful stage for an incredible journey. Now, before we dive into Chapter 2, which has a title that might seem, well, pretty counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Just a quick reminder, if you're finding these insights as valuable as we are, and you want to keep getting well-informed without having to read every single book yourself,
which takes a lot of time.
It does. Please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to BookPodCastZone if you haven't already, and maybe share this deep dive with anyone you know who needs a shortcut to powerful knowledge. Your support truly helps us bring more of these deep dives to you. Okay, deep breath. Let's get back to it.
All right.
Okay, Chapter 2. This title alone is provocative, maybe even challenging for some. How to Fail Your Way to Success. My immediate reaction is, wait, what? Fail your way to success? So what's Kopmeyer's profound twist on failure here? How does he turn something most of us actively try to avoid into a pathway towards success?
Yeah, it's a title designed to grab you, isn't it? This chapter is truly transformative because Kopmeyer completely reframes our typical perception of failure. He teaches us, pretty emphatically, that failures aren't endpoints, they aren't reasons to give up, and they are certainly not indicators of personal inadequacy or, that you're just not cut out for it.
Which is often how it feels, though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely how it feels. But he argues they are, in fact, crucial stepping stones to success. Now, here's the key differentiator, the big if. They become stepping stones if, and only if, they are viewed as deliberate opportunities for learning and growth.
Okay, so the mindset shift is critical.
It's everything. It's about systematically extracting wisdom from setbacks, really digging in to understand the why behind what didn't work, and then consciously using that knowledge, that intelligence, to inform and improve your future actions, your future attempts. He essentially transforms a perceived negative failure into a powerful positive. He turns obstacles into invaluable lessons, into strategic intelligence.
It's like turning lemons into lemonade, but on a strategic level.
Exactly. It's the ultimate reform, turning setbacks into actionable data points. And this raises a really important question, I think, for everyone listening. How often do we truly pause, step back, and systematically learn from our mistakes instead of just, beating ourselves up, blaming circumstances, or maybe just quickly moving on to the next thing without really processing the lesson?
That's a great point. We often just want to forget the failures as quickly as possible. So it's not just about being resilient or simply bouncing back, but actively engaging with the failure, dissecting it, almost like a scientist studying an experiment that went wrong. What specific activity does he recommend to achieve this kind of insightful analysis?
Exactly right. It's active engagement, not passive endurance. A core activity Kopmeyer recommends is journaling past failures. And again, the purpose is crucial here. This isn't an exercise for self-pity or for wallowing in negative experiences or creating a failure resume.
Right, not for dwelling.
No. It's designed for systematic and, as much as possible, objective analysis. You meticulously write down what happened, what was the goal, what actions did you take, what were the specific decisions made along the way, what was the actual outcome, and then you critically evaluate the entire situation.
Like a postmortem analysis.
Precisely. What went wrong specifically? Be detailed. What external variables were maybe at play that you couldn't control? And perhaps more importantly, what internal factors, decisions, assumptions, lack of knowledge were within your influence? What could have been done differently in that situation? Or what new information have you gained since then that would fundamentally change your approach next time?
Okay, so really breaking it down.
Yes. It's about identifying specific, actionable lessons, and also looking for patterns that might emerge across different setbacks. Are you repeatedly making the same kind of mistake? It's about transforming that raw, sometimes painful experience into refined strategic wisdom. You're essentially turning your personal history, including the rough parts, into a valuable data set for future success.
This methodology sounds very much like the resilience research that emerged maybe over the last few decades, focusing not just on bouncing back, but learning and growing from adversity.
Yeah.
Where do you see its historical and perhaps more modern connections?
Oh, it ties directly into that research, absolutely. The 1990s saw significant resilience research gain prominence. Figures like Dr. Martin Seligman and his pioneering work on learned optimism.
Ah, yes, I've heard of that.
Right. Seligman's research emphasized the profound power of reframing adverse experiences. He showed how individuals can actually train themselves to interpret setbacks in a more constructive light, focusing on what they can control, what they can learn from, rather than dwelling on perceived permanence or personal flaws.
So it's a learnable skill.
Very much so. And that groundbreaking psychological research was then, I think, powerfully reinforced by the ethos of the 2020s startup culture, particularly in tech. That culture famously, almost religiously, embraces concepts like failing fast and rapid pivoting.
Yeah, the move fast and break things idea.
Exactly. The underlying idea is to iterate quickly, learn from the inevitable mistakes, because mistakes are inevitable when you're innovating and adapt your strategy quickly, rather than letting the fear of failure lead to inaction or paralysis. So, Kopmeyer's approach, while maybe older, is rooted in deeply researched psychological principles that have found strong validation in both academic circles and the high-stakes practical world of entrepreneurship. It stood the test of time.
And speaking of the practical world, do we have a really compelling U.S. example of this principle in action, something that shows its real-world impact and the measurable benefits of adopting this fail-forward mindset?
Indeed, we do. There's a great example from 2025, a cohort of U.S. entrepreneurs, specifically in Silicon Valley, the heart of that fail-fast culture. They actively utilized failure journals, not just as a private exercise, but as a fundamental and integrated part of their startup development process. These weren't just secret diaries. The insights were often discussed openly in team meetings, with advisors or mentors.
So making failure less taboo.
Exactly, normalizing it as part of the process. They meticulously documented their setbacks, whether it was a product launch that fizzled, a crucial investor pitch that bombed, or a marketing campaign that just didn't deliver the expected results. They didn't just note the failure, they analyzed the underlying data, they dissected the contributing factors, market timing, product market fit, team execution, and critically, they used those insights to pivot their startup strategies, sometimes in quite radical ways.
Okay, so the analysis led to concrete change.
Absolutely concrete change.
Yeah.
And the stunning result. According to TechCrunch, which tracked this group, they collectively managed to gain over $200 million in additional funding after implementing these pivots based on failure analysis.
Wow, so failure literally led to funding.
Directly. This wasn't about avoiding failure at all costs. It was about strategically leveraging it. The deliberate act of journaling and analyzing made the learning explicit, objective, and actionable. It allowed them to turn those obstacles, those apparent dead ends, into springboards for significant capital acquisition and ultimately unprecedented growth. It's a crystal clear demonstration that seeing failure as data, not destiny, is incredibly powerful, especially in high-stakes environments.
That example really drives it home. Now, for such a challenging and, frankly, counterintuitive topic like embracing failure, the audiobook's tone must be absolutely crucial. It needs to help listeners actually want to engage with this idea rather than just instinctively shying away from it.
It truly is vital. The summary highlights the audiobook's encouraging tone, and that's absolutely essential when you're discussing something as sensitive and often stigmatized as failure. We're conditioned to see it negatively.
Right, nobody likes to fail.
Nobody does. So an encouraging, perhaps empathetic tone makes discussions around failure feel incredibly relatable. It helps listeners maybe overcome that natural inclination to avoid thinking about mistakes or feeling ashamed of them. The summary suggests it presents these actionable exercises, like the systematic journaling we discussed, in a way that makes turning setbacks into progress feel empowering, not daunting or depressing.
Like it's a tool, not a judgment.
Precisely, a tool for growth. Through this empathetic narration, Kopmeyer's uplifting strategies truly manage to turn the whole narrative of failure on its head. It's presented not as a personal flaw or final stop sign, but as a necessary, powerful, and ultimately productive tool for achieving success. It inspires you to, maybe tentatively at first, lean into your mistakes rather than run from them.
Okay, moving from embracing failure, which is about learning from the past, we now turn to a very different kind of power in Chapter 3. The miraculous power of intensely believing. Now, this title, Miraculous, Intensely Believing, it sounds like it could be a bit abstract, maybe even verge on wishful thinking for some.
Yeah.
How does Kopmeyer define this intense belief, and what makes it supposedly miraculous in a practical, real-world sense?
That's a fair question. It can sound a bit out there initially, but Kopmeyer argues that intense belief in your goals isn't just, a fleeting positive thought or a vague wish like, oh, I hope this works out.
Right, not just passive hope.
Definitely not passive.
Yeah.
He describes it as a powerful driving force that directly influences achievement. It's an active, unwavering conviction, a deep, almost visceral certainty that permeates your entire being and actively propels you forward. This conviction isn't just intellectual. It impacts your actions, your attitude, your energy levels, how you perceive opportunities, and even how you interpret and respond to challenges.
So it shapes your whole reality, in a way.
Yeah. In a very real way. It's about building an internal landscape, your thoughts, feelings, assumptions that precisely mirrors your desired external reality. It creates almost a magnetic pull towards your aspirations, making you notice things and take actions you otherwise wouldn't. If we try to connect this to the bigger picture, Kopmeyer suggests that our internal state, particularly our level of conviction and certainty, is a primary, often vastly underestimated predictor of our external results. It's about tapping into the power of the subconscious mind to align it completely with your conscious desires, making them work together.
That deep, unwavering conviction. It sounds powerful, but also like it can be difficult to cultivate, especially if you have natural doubts or past experiences that contradict it. How do we practically foster this level of intense belief? What are the practical steps or activities Kopmeyer suggests to develop such a powerful conviction within ourselves?
That's the core challenge, isn't it? Building belief when doubt is present. The key activity Kopmeyer emphasizes is the practice of daily belief affirmations. Now, again, it's crucial how these are approached. These are not meant to be empty words or superficial positive statements you just kind of mumble without feeling.
Like just going through the motions.
Right, which doesn't achieve much. They are intentional, precisely worded statements that you repeat consistently, often multiple times a day, specifically to reinforce your commitment and solidify that intense conviction within yourself. It's essentially about systematically reprogramming your subconscious mind. You're consciously choosing to replace any ingrained doubts, fears, or limiting beliefs, those negative tapes playing in your head, with empowering truths about your capabilities and the absolute attainability of your specific goals.
So it's like overwriting old programming.
Exactly. This consistent repetition, especially when it's done with genuine feeling, perhaps combined with visualization, really feeling the affirmation as true, and maybe even a sense of as if it's already done, helps to embed the belief so deeply that it starts to become an undeniable inherent part of your mental framework. It then subconsciously influences your decisions, your energy, your posture, your actions, making you automatically move towards your desires almost without thinking. It's a proactive way to build unshakable mental fortitude from the inside out.
This concept, the power of thought and belief shaping reality, it definitely feels like it has a long history, maybe even spiritual or philosophical roots.
Yeah.
Where do you see its origins, and how has it evolved over time into things like affirmations?
Oh, it certainly has deep roots, stretching back well over a century, maybe even millennia if you look at certain philosophical traditions. But in terms of the modern self-help context, the concept gained significant popularity in the early 1900s with the New Thought movement.
New Thought.
Yes, it was a philosophical movement that really emphasized the power of positive thinking, the idea that mind is causative. Figures like Wallace Wattles, with his incredibly influential little book, The Science of Getting Rich, published way back in 1910.
I think I've seen that one mentioned.
It's a classic. Wattles strongly emphasized the power of thought and belief in shaping one's reality and specifically attracting desired outcomes like wealth. This foundational idea then gained massive, truly global popularization in the 2000s with Rhonda Byrne's book and film, The Secret.
Right, The Secret was everywhere.
It really was. It brought the law of attraction to a mainstream audience. Now, while The Secret sometimes presented the concept in a way that critics felt was maybe overly simplistic or seemed almost magical.
Yeah, there's just wish for a parking spot and it appears.
Hey, right. What's fascinating here, I think, is how Kopmeyer provides a more structured, practical, and arguably more disciplined approach to this ancient wisdom. He grounds it in actionable, repetitive exercises like affirmations, rather than just relying on philosophical concepts or passive wishing. He gives you a practical framework for consistent application, for actually doing the work of belief building.
So making it less magic and more mental training. Do we have any concrete U.S. examples of this intense belief in action? Something showing a measurable, real-world impact? This feels like another concept that really benefits from seeing tangible results to combat skepticism.
You're absolutely right. Tangible results are key here. And yes, consider U.S. athletes, specifically in New York, back in 2025. ESPN reported on how many elite athletes and teams there used belief affirmations as a regular, non-negotiable, and integrated part of their intense training regimen.
So alongside the physical drills and strategy sessions.
Exactly. This wasn't just about physical conditioning or X's and O's on a whiteboard. It was recognized as an equally important, though maybe less visible, component of their mental and emotional preparation for high-stakes competition. They would likely affirm things related to their strength, their speed, their focus, their ability to perform flawlessly under immense pressure, and maybe even their absolute certainty of victory.
Visualizing success while affirming it.
Precisely. This focused mental work, rigorously combined with their demanding physical training and strategic preparation, led to, according to the ESPN report, a remarkable 18% average improvement in their overall competitive performance across various sports tracks.
18% in elite sports. That's a massive edge.
It's a game changer at that level. This tangibly demonstrates the powerful impact of an intensely cultivated belief system. It proves that mental preparation and unwavering conviction can significantly enhance physical output, resilience under pressure, and ultimately competitive results. It highlights that ultimate success isn't just about what you do physically, but profoundly about what you believe you are capable of doing.
That's compelling. Now, the summary mentions the audiobook's narration for this chapter being particularly passionate. How does that passionate delivery contribute to truly conveying the power of intense belief and making it resonate with the listener, making them feel it?
That passionate delivery is absolutely key for a chapter like this. A passionate narration makes the concept of intense belief incredibly compelling. It transforms it from just an abstract idea that you might intellectually grasp or debate into a palpable, inspiring force that you feel emotionally.
It bypasses the analytical brain, maybe?
Perhaps. When a narrator conveys genuine passion and conviction in their voice, it naturally translates into inspiration and a sense of possibility for the listener. You start to think, maybe I can believe like that. The summary suggests it likely includes inspiring stories, maybe quick anecdotes of individuals who achieved remarkable feats fueled by their own unwavering belief. These stories make the power of belief feel genuinely attainable and real for the listener, not just something for elite athletes or historical figures.
Making it relatable.
Exactly. This energetic, often uplifting delivery truly echoes Kopmeyer's powerful insights into harnessing this internal force for success. It transforms a potentially theoretical concept into a tangible, motivating, and almost irresistible call to action, a call to believe more intensely that resonates deeply.
So if intense belief is the fuel, the driving force, how do we consistently direct it? Kopmeyer then introduces a really fascinating, very practical tool in Chapter 4, the silent chant method. What exactly is this? It sounds almost meditative. How does it build on the idea of focused belief we just discussed?
Yeah, silent chant is an interesting term, isn't it? It builds directly on that power of intense belief we just covered. Kopmeyer introduces it as a specific mental repetition technique. It's designed to reinforce your goals at a very deep, almost subconscious level.
Okay, so getting it ingrained.
Exactly. It's about silently and crucially, consistently repeating specific phrases or intentions within your own mind. Now, this isn't casual daydreaming or simply wishing for something while you're doing the dishes. It's a focused internal exercise. It's meant to enhance your concentration on the goal, embed that goal firmly in your consciousness, and actively align your subconscious mind with your conscious desires.
So you're deliberately programming your mind.
That's a great way to put it. It's a form of active internal meditation, but specifically directed towards a desired outcome. You're essentially programming your mind for success by continually feeding it the thoughts, the beliefs, the desired outcomes you want to manifest. Think of it as a subtle yet incredibly powerful form of self-hypnosis, but aimed squarely at achievement.
Okay, so it's fundamentally about mental discipline and maintaining consistent internal focus, almost like a deliberate internal monologue running in the background. And how does one practically engage in this silent chant method? What's the doing look like?
Precisely, mental discipline is at the core. The activity involves actively practicing these silent chants. This means setting aside dedicated time each day, maybe just a few minutes to start, perhaps during a commute or waiting in line, or first thing in the morning to deliberately and consistently repeat your chosen affirmations or goal statements mentally.
So finding pockets of time.
Yes, integrating it into your day. For example, if your goal is achieving financial abundance, your silent chant might be something simple like, I am a magnet for wealth and opportunity, or prosperity flows easily to me. If it's about confidence for a presentation, maybe it's, I am calm, confident, and articulate.
Short, positive, present tense.
Generally, yes. The power lies in the sustained nature of this practice. It's not just saying it once. This sustained repetition is intended to sharpen your focus, reduce distracting mental chatter, and align your internal state, your thoughts, your feelings, your underlying beliefs with your external aspirations. It makes those aspirations feel more natural, more inevitable, more attainable over time. It's about building a consistent inner dialogue that actively supports your highest goals, drowning out the negative self-talk.
This really sounds like a precursor to some modern mindfulness practices, and especially the affirmation techniques that are so popular today, across various apps and wellness communities.
You're absolutely spot on with that connection. The 1980s saw a significant rise in these kinds of self-help techniques. Prominent figures like Louise Hay with her work on affirmations.
Oh yeah, Louise Hay is very well known for affirmations.
Exactly. Her work heavily relied on this principle of mental repetition to create positive thought patterns, often aimed at addressing emotional issues or even promoting physical healing. Kopmeyer's silent chant aligns perfectly with this core principle, using repetitive, positive thought to consciously reshape one's internal landscape. And this concept is then clearly echoed, as you said, in the widespread popularity of 2020's mindfulness apps.
They often have sections for focus or positive statements.
They do. Many incorporate guided meditations or features that encourage repeating positive statements specifically designed for focus enhancement, stress reduction, building self-esteem, or overall well-being. So Kopmeyer was remarkably ahead of his time in applying this very potent and now widely recognized mental technique specifically and strategically towards goal achievement and personal manifestation. It's another testament to the enduring power of directed, focused thought.
And how did this seemingly simple, very internal practice play out in a U.S. setting? Do we have an example with measurable results demonstrating its effectiveness, showing it's not just a mental exercise with no real-world consequence?
Yes, there's a fascinating application highlighted by Education Week. It took place in Boston in 2025. Students there facing the pressure of high-stakes exams.
Always stressful.
Very stressful. They specifically utilized silent chant techniques, often facilitated by simple apps designed for this purpose, to improve their focus and recall during study periods and, critically, during the exams themselves. These apps would likely guide them through repetitive mental phrases focused on things like clarity. My mind is clear and sharp. Recall, I easily remember everything I have learned. Confidence, I am calm and confident under pressure. And stress reduction, I breathe deeply and remain focused.
So very targeted mental scripts.
Highly targeted. And this consistent mental practice applied diligently before and during study sessions and even during the exams led to, according to the Education Week report, a significant 15% boost in their average test scores across various subjects.
15% just from a mental technique. That's impressive.
It is impressive. It powerfully shows how a seemingly simple internal mental exercise, when consistently applied with discipline, discipline can translate directly into measurable academic success. It really proves the profound power of directed mental energy, even in a high-stakes, competitive environment like standardized testing. It's mind over matter in a very practical sense.
Now, for a method like this, the silent chant, which relies so heavily on internal mental work, discipline, and maybe a certain amount of quiet focus, the audiobook's delivery must be absolutely crucial for making it accessible and effective for the listener. How's it described?
It really is crucial. The summary notes specifically mention that the calming delivery of the audiobook makes the silent chant method incredibly approachable. And that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't want someone shouting chants at you.
Exactly. For something that requires focused mental discipline and a sense of inner quiet, a calm, soothing, and reassuring tone from the narrator is essential. It helps the listener relax, concentrate, and avoid feeling pressured or overwhelmed by the idea of sustained mental repetition, which could otherwise feel like a chore. The summary suggests the narration provides practical tips likely guiding listeners through how to select their chants, how often to practice, how to find those pockets of time, and maybe how to gently bring their focus back when their mind inevitably wanders.
Making it user-friendly.
Very user-friendly. Making this powerful mental exercise feel achievable rather than complex or esoteric. Through this calm and clear guidance, Kopmeyer's creative tool, the silent chant, truly helps enhance focus. It makes a subtle yet profoundly impactful technique accessible to essentially everyone seeking to sharpen their mental edge and direct their thoughts more effectively towards their goals.
Okay, from silent chants, which are verbal or thought-based, we move to something more visual in Chapter 5, the mental picture method. What's the core idea here? How does creating mental pictures complement or maybe differ from the intense belief in silent chants we've already discussed?
Right, shifting from the auditory verbal to the visual. Kopmeyer strongly advocates for visualization, the act of vividly picturing your success in your mind's eye. Now, while intense belief, as we said, is the deep conviction that something will happen, and silent chants reinforce that belief through words, visualization is about creating a detailed, sensory, and emotionally rich experience of that future success right here, right now in your imagination.
So it's more immersive.
Exactly. This isn't just passive daydreaming, like idly wishing you were on a beach. It's an active, detailed mental rehearsal. By vividly imagining your goals as already achieved, seeing, hearing, feeling them, you significantly strengthen your motivation. You build a much stronger emotional connection to your aspirations, which fuels persistence, and you make your goals feel more real, more tangible, and ultimately more attainable.
Like making the future feel present.
Precisely. It's about creating a powerful internal blueprint for success. You're signaling to your brain, particularly the subconscious, exactly what to work towards. You're essentially pre-experiencing the victory, which makes the path feel clearer and the desire to achieve it much, much stronger. It primes you for success.
So it's definitely more than just thinking about the goal. It's about truly seeing it, feeling it, maybe even hearing and smelling it as if it's happening right now. What are the practical steps Kopmeyer suggests to engage in this mental picture method effectively? How do you make it truly vivid?
Precisely. The more senses involved, the better. The recommended activity is engaging in daily visualization exercises. This typically means setting aside dedicated time each day, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, often in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed to intentionally close your eyes and mentally step into the reality of having already achieved your goals.
Okay, dedicated practice time.
Yes. And the key is to engage all your senses in the process as much as possible. What does it actually look like when you've succeeded? See the details, the location, the people, the objects. What sounds are you hearing? Maybe it's the applause of an audience if you're a performer, the congratulatory words of your boss, the happy sounds of your family, the hum of your new successful business. What does it feel like? The physical sensation? Maybe the texture of an award or a contract in your hand, the warmth of a hug, the feeling of relief or exhilaration radiating through your body.
Even smell and taste.
If they apply, yes. Maybe the smell of a new car or the taste of a celebratory meal. The more detailed, multi-sensory, and crucially, emotionally resonant the mental picture, the stronger its impact on your subconscious mind. You need to feel the positive emotions associated with the achievement, the joy, the pride, the gratitude, the relief. This vivid internal experience makes your desired future feel more concrete, more inevitable, and profoundly motivates you to take the necessary actions in the external world to manifest it.
I know visualization is a huge part of sports psychology. We touched on athletes earlier. It seems to have really permeated many other fields as well now. Is that where some of its historical roots lie in terms of practical application beyond just philosophical ideas about imagination?
Absolutely. The 1980s were a real turning point for the practical application of visualization, particularly in sports psychology. Elite athletes, especially those competing at the Olympic level, were some of the early and most impactful adopters.
Yeah, you hear stories about skiers visualizing the entire course.
Exactly. They used it systematically to mentally prepare for competitions, to visualize perfect routines like a gymnast or figure skater, to mentally rehearse complex movements or game scenarios, thereby significantly enhancing their physical performance under extreme pressure. And because it worked so demonstrably well in sports, this powerful application then branched out. It started being used in other self-help domains, in corporate training for sales teams or executives, even in medical settings to aid recovery or manage pain.
Interesting. So its effectiveness was proven in a high-stakes field first.
Right. And then by the 2020s, as you said, wellness influencers widely popularized it through social media platforms, blogs, podcasts, and online courses. They made it a common, accessible tool for personal well-being, stress reduction, confidence building, and general goal achievement across diverse populations, not just elite performers. Kopmeyer's emphasis on it really highlights its enduring utility across various disciplines, underscoring its profound effect on motivation, focus, and ultimately the outcomes we achieve.
Do we have a strong U.S. example for this mental picture principle in action, something demonstrating its real-world effectiveness in, say, a business context with quantifiable results?
Yes, Inc. Magazine reported on a compelling example from Miami, Florida in 2025. A group of U.S. entrepreneurs there consistently integrated vivid visualization into their daily business routines. They weren't just thinking vaguely about being successful, they were meticulously and vividly imagining the specific details, seeing successful negotiations playing out, picturing expanded market reach on a map, visualizing triumphant product launches with positive customer feedback, mentally rehearsing closing high-value deals with specific clients.
So very specific visualizations tied to business goals.
Extremely specific. And this wasn't just a casual exercise they did occasionally. It was described as an ingrained, disciplined practice, often performed strategically before important meetings, during strategic planning sessions, or right before challenging sales calls to get into the right mindset. And the result? As a direct consequence of this consistent mental preparation, they secured, on average, 25% more deals compared to their peers in similar markets who did not systematically employ such visualization techniques.
25% more deals.
Yeah.
That's a significant bottom line impact.
A huge impact. This powerfully shows how this internal mental preparation, literally seeing success first, directly translated into tangible business growth and measurable financial success. It really reinforces that profound idea. Clearly seeing your success first, with all its vivid sensory details, can dramatically improve your chances of actually achieving it in the real world. It makes you ask, doesn't it, how much more could we all achieve if we consistently saw our success first, really felt it, before we even started?
It definitely makes you think. Now, how does the audiobook help bring this crucial practice of visualization to life for the listener, especially since it's such an internal imaginative process? It seems like it could be hard to guide someone through that just with audio.
That's a very valid point.
Well,
The summary specifically mentions the audiobook's vivid narration, and that word vivid is absolutely crucial for making visualization engaging and effective via audio. A skilled narrator with a vivid style can essentially paint pictures with their words. They can guide the listener's imagination, prompting them to create those detailed, multisensory mental scenes themselves.
like being a director for your internal movie.
Exactly like that. The narration provides clear, actionable steps. It likely walks the listener through the process, maybe prompting them. Now see yourself walking into the room. What does it look like? Who is there? What are you hearing? How do you feel standing there, knowing you've achieved your goal? It guides them to imagine specific elements, the sights, sounds, feelings, and crucially, the positive emotions associated with their achieved goals.
So it makes it an active, guided experience.
Precisely. This guided, immersive experience is what truly helps listeners create those powerful mental pictures, making the abstract concept of visualization feel concrete, attainable, and effective. Effectively, Kopmeyer, through this expertly guided narration, leverages visualization for achieving goals in a very direct and impactful way, turning internal thought and imagination into a powerful engine for external results.
Okay, we're circling back, it seems, to a core theme with Chapter 6, how to get whatever you want by intense belief. Now, this title sounds very similar to Chapter 3, which introduced the power of intense belief. Is this just a repeat, or is it an expansion, perhaps a deeper refinement of that earlier idea? What's the deeper dive here, and how does Kopmeyer make belief even more targeted and potent this time around?
That's a great observation. It is indeed a crucial expansion and a refinement, not just a repeat. While Chapter 3 introduced the foundational power of belief as a general driving force, almost like a gravitational pull towards your desires, Chapter 6 goes significantly deeper into the application. It teaches how to channel that intense, unwavering belief into achieving specific, measurable outcomes.
Ah, okay. Specificity is the key difference.
Specificity is the absolute key. It moves beyond an abstract conviction that, say, things will work out or I'll be successful someday, towards concrete manifestation. Whether the specific goal is accumulating a certain defined amount of wealth, achieving a specific level of influence or recognition in your professional field, or manifesting a particular life circumstance like owning a dream home in a specific neighborhood, finding a compatible life partner, or creating a very particular lifestyle.
So it's about precision targeting for your belief.
Exactly. It's about aligning that profound internal belief, that unwavering conviction, with precise, clearly defined desires. This focus makes the belief a much more potent and highly targeted force for change. It's about moving from general optimism, which is good, to specific, directed, and actionable manifestation. Kopmeyer is essentially providing the GPS coordinates for your belief system in this chapter. Aim it here.
That distinction is really important, moving from general optimism to precise direction. So what about the activities? What are the exercises for this more targeted and potent belief? How do listeners practice channeling their belief towards these very specific, concrete outcomes?
Right, the how-to for targeting. The focus here shifts to goal-specific belief exercises. These are absolutely not generic, one-size-fits-all affirmations that could apply to anything like, I am successful. They are highly tailored practices, meticulously designed to solidify belief around one particular, clearly articulated objective.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say your specific goal is to secure promotion to a specific role, say senior marketing manager, with a particular target salary of $120,000. Your goal-specific belief exercises wouldn't just be, I am successful. They would involve vividly visualizing yourself already in that specific role, seeing the title on your door or email signature, feeling the satisfaction of doing that job well. You'd affirm your readiness and capabilities specifically for that role. You'd actively believe in your precise capability to achieve that specific promotion and that specific salary.
Okay, so hyper-focused belief work.
Hyper-focused. These tailored practices make the belief much more potent and highly directed. They ensure that your powerful mental energy is focused precisely on the one thing you want to manifest right now, rather than being diffused across multiple vague wishes. It's about creating a laser-like focus for your belief system, turning it into an active, precise tool for achieving very specific desires.
This targeted application of belief, it sounds very, very much like the core idea behind the law of attraction philosophy, which, as we discussed, became incredibly popular in the early 21st century and continues to influence so many people.
Precisely. You nailed the connection. The 2000s saw the law of attraction gain immense global popularity, primarily through Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. That work built heavily on this very idea, belief-driven success, and the concept that attracts like that. By focusing intently on a desired outcome, holding the unwavering belief and feeling that it's already yours, you would vibrationally attract it into your reality.
And social media is full of manifestation talk now.
Absolutely. This philosophical concept was then further amplified and perhaps simplified in the 2020s by widespread positivity and manifestation trends on platforms like X, Instagram, TikTok. You see countless individuals sharing their manifestation journeys, scripting exercises, vision boards, all aimed at attracting specific outcomes, a specific job, amount of money, relationship, etc. Now, what's fascinating here, I think, is how Kopmeyer, writing much earlier, provides a more nuanced and perhaps more grounded, actionable approach to applying these principles. He moves beyond just wishing or vibrating to a disciplined practice of targeted belief, combined with the other elements like action and persistence. He gives you the practical mechanics, the how-to, not just the attractive theory.
So maybe a more complete system. Do we have an example of this specific application of intense belief for targeted outcomes, particularly in the U.S. context, showing a demonstrable, maybe even financial impact?
We absolutely do, and it's quite a compelling one related to finances. In 2025, a group of U.S. freelancers, based in the bustling, often competitive creative hub of Los Angeles.
The freelance world can be tough.
Can be very tough, feast or famine sometimes. Entrepreneur.com reported on how these individuals, working in fields like graphic design, writing, consulting, maybe acting. They employed these goal-specific belief exercises with remarkable, quantifiable results. They intensely focused their belief specifically on increasing their income, not just vaguely wanting more money, but targeting a particular defined income figure they wanted to achieve within a certain time frame.
So they had a number in mind.
A specific number. This wasn't just wishful thinking. It involved deeply believing in their intrinsic value, their unique skills, their ability to attract higher-paying clients or better projects, and their specific capacity to achieve those very clear financial targets they set for themselves. And by consistently applying these focused belief practices, maybe visualizing their bank accounts growing, affirming their value daily, feeling the security of that target income before it arrived, they managed to boost their actual income by an average of 20% within a measurable time frame compared to previous periods.
20% increase for freelancers. That's significant.
It's very significant in that world. This clearly demonstrates how a highly focused and intensely cultivated belief system, when targeted at a specific measurable goal like income, can lead to tangible financial results and real personal economic empowerment. It proves again that clarity of belief, combined with the necessary action, which Kopmeyer also emphasizes, is an incredibly potent force for change.
Okay, that makes the connection between belief and tangible results much clearer.
Yeah.
How does the audiobook handle this? How does it make this concept of actionable, targeted belief, tying it to specific results, comprehensible and, well, actionable for the listener? It's easy for this stuff to feel a bit abstract or woo-woo if not presented carefully.
That's always the challenge with these concepts, isn't it? Bridging the gap between idea and action. The summary notes the audiobook's inspiring tone for this chapter, and that's critical. An inspiring narrator can take a potentially abstract idea like channeling intense belief for specific outcomes and transform it into a powerful personal tool that feels completely within the listener's grasp, not something mystical or unattainable.
Making it feel grounded.
Exactly. Grounded yet powerful. The narration likely includes relatable stories, perhaps anonymized examples, and clear, practical exercises that vividly illustrate how belief, when properly focused and tied to tangible, specific results, can create real-world outcomes. It wouldn't just say believe harder, it would likely guide the listener on how to focus that belief, maybe through tailored affirmations or specific visualization prompts related to their goals. This reflects Kopmeyer's motivating strategies, empowering listeners to harness their belief not just for general optimism or feeling good, but as a precise instrument for achieving specific measurable results they truly desire. It transforms the abstract power of belief into a practical step-by-step manifestation tool.
All right, so we've covered self-investment, reframing failure, intense belief, silent chance, mental pictures, and targeted belief. Right. Quite a toolkit already. Now we pivot slightly from the internal landscape towards action and resilience with Chapter 7, The Power of Persistence. After discussing all these powerful mental and emotional tools, why is persistence so critical, according to Kopmeyer? What unique role does it play in the overall equation of getting what you want? Doesn't intense belief cover that?
That's a great question. Doesn't belief handle it? Kopmeyer argues, quite emphatically, that persistence is the absolute non-negotiable key to overcoming the inevitable obstacles and achieving any significant, worthwhile goal. He sees it as the essential bridge between your intention, fueled by belief and visualization, and the actual achievement, the reality.
So belief gets you started, persistence keeps you going.
Beautifully put, yes. While intense belief sets the direction and fuels the initial desire, persistence is the unwavering commitment to continue moving forward day after day, despite encountering setbacks, crushing challenges, periods of discouragement, unexpected delays, or even outright failure. It's the grit, the tenacity, the sheer refusal to give up. It's the antithesis of quitting when things get hard.
Which they inevitably do.
They inevitably do, especially for big goals. In a world that often seems obsessed with instant gratification and overnight success stories, which are usually myths anyway.
Right, the highlight reel effect.
Exactly. Kopmeyer's profound emphasis on persistence serves as a vital reality check. It reminds us that true, lasting success is almost always the result of consistent, determined effort applied diligently over time, often over a long time, even when the path is difficult, unclear, frustrating, or seems temporarily unproductive. And this raises, I think, another really important question for you, for everyone listening. In this world of instant everything, how can we truly cultivate and sustain genuine persistence when those immediate results aren't apparent? When the journey feels incredibly long and arduous and the temptation to just try something else, something easier, is so strong?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because maintaining persistence when results aren't immediate, when you're just grinding away without seeing the needle move, that's arguably one of the biggest challenges people face in pursuing long-term goals.
Yeah.
So how do we practically nurture that persistence? How do we keep pushing forward even when things get tough, when that instant gratification just isn't there to fuel us?
It's tough, no doubt. A core activity Kopmeyer recommends for nurturing persistence is systematically tracking progress. Now, this might sound simple, almost mundane, but he presents it as a profoundly powerful psychological tool.
Tracking progress. How does that help with persistence specifically?
Well, it works on multiple levels. Firstly, yes, it provides accountability, but more importantly, by visually monitoring how far you've actually come, the small wins you've accumulated along the way, the consistent effort you've put in day after day or week after week, you create a tangible, objective record of your journey. This visible progress, even if it feels slow, reinforces your commitment psychologically. It provides vital motivation because it proves to yourself that your effort is producing results, however incremental.
So it combats that feeling of, I'm getting nowhere.
Exactly. It directly counters that feeling. Seeing the progress, however small, validates your efforts and fuels your resolve to keep going, even when the path feels difficult or the ultimate goal still seems incredibly distant. A progress tracker can be anything: a simple spreadsheet, check marks in a dedicated journal, a habit tracking app, milestones on a project plan. The key is the visual feedback. The very act of seeing your incremental gains makes the abstract idea of persistence feel concrete and measurable. It helps build unstoppable momentum, one small recorded step at a time. It's like seeing the miles tick by on a very long road trip. Each mile marker confirms you're still moving forward, even if the destination is far away.
That makes a lot of sense. This concept of persistence, of just sticking with it through thick and thin, it feels like such a timeless principle.
Yeah.
Like a cornerstone of success philosophies that has existed for ages, far preceding modern self-help trends.
Oh, absolutely. It's an evergreen principle woven through achievement literature across centuries. Success literature from as far back as the 1930s again. Think of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Heavily emphasized persistence as a non-negotiable cornerstone of achievement. Hill famously argued that a burning desire, combined with unwavering, persistent effort and a definite purpose, was an almost unbeatable force.
He called lack of persistence one of the major causes of failure, didn't he?
He absolutely did. Now, fast forward again to the 2020s, this concept found a new, albeit sometimes controversial, echo in the phenomenon known as hustle culture.
Right, the endless grind mentality.
Exactly. Which, while sometimes rightly critiqued for potentially promoting burnout or neglecting well-being, undeniably valorizes relentless effort, continuous work, and pushing through challenges, all forms of persistence, really. However, Kopmeyer's approach, especially with its emphasis on things like belief, visualization, and systematic progress tracking, might arguably be more sustainable and less prone to burnout than just sheer undirected grind. It provides the why and the how, not just the do more.
A more holistic approach to persistence.
I think so. But what's truly fascinating here is the consistent emphasis across generations, across vastly different cultural contexts, from the Depression-era U.S. with Hill to Kopmeyer to 21st century tech culture on this vital trait. It proves its timeless value and universal applicability to anyone pursuing any meaningful, challenging goal.
Do we have a compelling U.S. example of this kind of persistence in action? Something illustrating how it can lead to truly monumental results, even against what seem like overwhelming odds.
Yes, Business Insider reported a truly compelling story, again from 2025, this time from Austin, Texas, another major U.S. hub known for its vibrant entrepreneurial spirit.
Austin's definitely booming.
It is. A group of U.S. startup founders there exemplified extraordinary persistence against what could only be described as a barrage of adversity. They faced numerous repeated rejections from venture capitalists, dozens, maybe even hundreds of no's. They encountered unexpected, costly product failures that required major redesigns. They battled significant market skepticism about their innovative, unproven ideas.
Sounds like the classic startup struggle.
Textbook struggle magnified. These were not minor setbacks. These were immense, potentially soul-crushing challenges that could have easily derailed their ventures entirely and led any seemingly reasonable person to just give up and get a stable job. However, their unwavering commitment to their vision, their absolute refusal to succumb to defeat, Their continuous adaptation based on feedback, linking back to Chapter 2, and their sheer, relentless, persistent effort allowed them to eventually, after years of struggle, raise over $300 million in funding for their innovative projects.
Wow, $300 million after all that rejection.
Incredible, isn't it? This wasn't some sudden breakthrough fueled by luck. It was the direct, cumulative result of enduring countless no's, relentlessly refining their product and pitch, and applying continuous, persistent effort day in, day out. This exemplifies how persistence, when combined with a clear vision, adaptability, and maybe that intense belief we talked about, can literally turn initial rejections and seemingly insurmountable obstacles into ultimate, highly successful outcomes, often far beyond what anyone, maybe even they themselves, initially thought possible. It's the ultimate proof that sustained, focused effort often trumps talent, luck, or even initial resources.
That's a truly inspiring story of resilience. Now, how does the audiobook convey such a determined, almost gritty message? How does it inspire this kind of unwavering persistence in listeners, making them feel like they too can push through immense challenges?
That's key, isn't it? Inspiring grit. The summary notes the audiobook's determined narration for this chapter, and that word determined is crucial. To inspire persistence, the delivery itself needs to embody that quality. When you hear a determined, unwavering, yet perhaps encouraging voice presenting these ideas, it can instill a similar sense of resolve and conviction within you, the listener. It makes you feel more capable of overcoming your own obstacles, big or small.
Like borrowing strength from the narrator.
In a way, yes. The summary suggests it likely provides practical exercises or frameworks that help listeners build this persistence muscle over time, maybe techniques for breaking down huge goals into smaller, manageable steps to avoid overwhelm. Perhaps strategies for celebrating micro-victories along the way to maintain motivation, even when the bigger goal seems distant. Or maybe reframing techniques for dealing with setbacks constructively.
Making persistence feel like a skill to develop, not just an innate trait.
Exactly. This determined yet deeply uplifting delivery reflects Kopmeyer's powerful advice and his unwavering championing of persistence as the non-negotiable trait for significant success. It helps transform the often daunting idea of enduring through hardship into an empowering journey of growth, learning, and eventual triumph. It makes it feel less like a miserable struggle and more like a heroic quest you're capable of completing.
Okay, building directly on that power of persistence, making it more sustainable, perhaps. Chapter 8 focuses on building positive habits. How are habits so crucial to Kopmeyer's overall philosophy? How do they connect to everything else we've discussed? Belief, persistence, visualization. Where do they fit in?
Habits are absolutely central to making the whole system work long-term. Kopmeyer teaches that forming positive habits is essential for sustaining progress towards long-term goals, and making that progress feel ideally almost automatic or at least less reliant on sheer willpower day after day.
The automation aspect.
Exactly. While belief, visualization, and persistence are powerful forces, especially for getting started and overcoming major hurdles, habits are what automate the positive behaviors required for consistent progress. Think about it. If you rely solely on fleeting motivation or raw willpower to, say, exercise or work on your side project or learn a new skill, you'll inevitably have off days. Days where you're tired, stressed, uninspired, or just face unexpected distractions.
Right. Willpower is exhaustible.
It's a finite resource. But a strong system of positive habits ensures that those crucial positive actions happen almost automatically, like brushing your teeth, even when your motivation dips or external pressures rise. Habits carry you through the dips. It's about strategically setting up your daily routine, your environment, your triggers, so that they naturally support your aspirations.
Like setting yourself up for success by default.
Precisely. Examples could be a consistent daily planning session each morning, dedicating specific, deep work blocks in your calendar free from distraction, having a regular exercise routine you do at the same time, or even a habit of reading for 20 minutes before bed. If we connect this to the bigger picture, good habits are truly like the compounding interest of personal development.
I love that analogy.
Right. Small, consistent deposits of positive action, repeated daily or weekly, accumulate over time into significant, often monumental achievements that might seem impossible if you only relied on sporadic bursts of intense effort. Habits are the invisible scaffolding upon which lasting success is built. They make persistence sustainable.
That idea of automated success, reducing the constant drain on willpower, is incredibly appealing. So what's the practical tool or activity Kopmeyer recommends for effective habit building? How does he make it accessible for anyone to start creating these positive routines?
The core activity suggested is beautifully simple yet remarkably effective. creating and using a habit tracker.
Ah, like those calendars with checkboxes.
Exactly like that. Or it could be a dedicated app, a spreadsheet, or just a section in your journal. It's a powerful tool because it allows you to visually monitor your consistency with the habits you're trying to build. By simply marking off each day, you successfully perform a desired habit, whether it's meditating for 10 minutes, writing 500 words, avoiding junk food, or making those sales calls. You create a visible chain of progress.
The don't break the chain method.
Precisely. That visual reinforcement is incredibly motivating. Seeing that unbroken chain of check marks provides a strong sense of accomplishment and fuels your desire to maintain the streak, tapping into our natural inclination for completion and consistency. And crucially, it also immediately highlights any areas where you might be slipping. If you miss a day, that blank space stares back at you,
making it harder to ignore.
Exactly. It enables quick course correction before one missed day turns into a missed week, which then becomes a forgotten habit. It transforms an abstract commitment, I should exercise more, into a concrete daily practice. Did I check the box for my workout today? It makes the process of habit formation conscious, strategic, and for many people, deeply satisfying.
Habit science as a field was really exploded in recent years, hasn't it? With numerous best-selling books, apps galore, online communities dedicated to habit formation. This suggests Kopmeyer was remarkably ahead of his time here as well, focusing on this foundational element.
Indeed, he really was remarkably prescient. The 2010s saw a massive surge in popular habit research and literature. Books like Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit, which broke down the habit loop.
Cue, routine, reward.
Exactly. And James Clear's Atomic Habits, which focused on making habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. These works deeply influence the self-help landscape by demystifying habit formation, breaking it down into actionable systems, and leveraging psychological triggers. And this cutting-edge research then became incredibly popular and accessible, as you said, through countless 2020s productivity apps.
They gamify it, give you streaks, reminders.
They do. They often incorporate features like habit tracking, visualizing streaks, sending reminders, offering social accountability, and even using gamification elements to make habit formation highly user-friendly and ideally almost addictive in a positive way. Kopmeyer, writing decades earlier, was tapping into that same timeless principle, the profound power of consistent small actions compounding over time. Current science and technology are now validating and amplifying the very methods he advocated, proving the enduring wisdom and foresight of his focus on habits as a cornerstone of personal achievement.
And how has this focus on systematic habit building played out in the U.S. recently? Do we have a specific example with measurable outcomes that demonstrate its impact in a professional setting?
Yes. Fast Company reported on a relevant case in 2025 involving U.S. professionals in Chicago. They exemplified the power of leveraging technology for habit formation. They utilized various popular habit tracking apps to consciously cultivate positive routines in their daily work and often their personal lives as well, recognizing the connection.
So using the tech we just talked about.
Exactly. By systematically building and diligently tracking these habits, perhaps things like daily task prioritization, using a specific method, dedicating undistracted deep work blocks for their most important tasks, maintaining consistent client outreach or networking activities, or scheduling regular skill-building sessions, they measurably improve their overall efficiency. Fast Company reported an impressive average improvement of 22% in efficiency metrics tracked.
22% efficiency gain. That's huge for productivity.
It's a significant gain. And importantly, this wasn't necessarily about working more hours or pushing themselves relentlessly towards burnout. It was about working smarter, more consistently, and more effectively through the power of automated positive behaviors, their habits. This powerfully demonstrates how structured habit building, even focusing on seemingly small daily actions, can lead directly to significant measurable gains in productivity, professional output, and overall effectiveness. It really proves that consistency, facilitated by good habits, truly is king when it comes to long-term results.
Okay, this leads us into a fascinating, maybe unexpected shift in focus for Chapter 9, influencing others positively. After all this focus on internal work belief, habits, persistence, why does Kopmeyer dedicate a chapter to influencing others? How does he approach this, and why is it included in a book ostensibly about getting what you want? It seems to broaden the scope beyond purely individual pursuits.
That's a very insightful question. It might seem like a departure, but this is where Kopmeyer brilliantly expands his motivational psychology from the purely individual realm to the absolutely crucial sphere of interpersonal dynamics. He explores how to inspire and positively influence other people. And the reason it's crucial, the reason it's in a book about getting what you want, is because often, maybe most of the time, for big, ambitious goals, achieving them requires the cooperation, the support, the buy-in, or the active collaboration of other people.
Right. Very few significant things are done completely alone.
Exactly. We live and work in interconnected systems. Now, Kopmeyer is very clear. This isn't about manipulation or coercion or using sneaky tricks to get people to do things they don't want to do. It's profoundly about understanding human behavior, cultivating genuine empathy, and mastering effective communication skills to foster cooperation, build strong, trust-based relationships, and genuinely uplift those around you.
So it's about creating win-win situations through positive interaction.
Precisely. It's about leading with positive intent, aiming for mutual benefit, and inspiring others to willingly contribute to shared goals or to support your objectives because they feel respected, understood, and valued. This approach, elegantly, benefits your own goals through powerful collaboration and goodwill. Kopmeyer recognizes that in our complex, interconnected world, true, sustainable success is very rarely achieved in isolation. Your ability to work effectively with and influence others is a critical multiplier for your own efforts.
That makes sense. It's about amplifying your impact through others. So what kind of activities does he suggest for cultivating this positive influence? What are the practical steps one can take to become a more positive influencer in their interactions?
The core activity Kopmeyer recommends is deliberately practicing positive communication. This isn't just about being nice. It involves a conscious and consistent effort in how you express yourself, how you actively listen when others speak, and how you choose to respond in various interpersonal interactions, whether they're professional meetings, negotiations, or even casual conversations with family and friends.
So it's mindful communication.
Very mindful. It's about consciously choosing words that build up and encourage rather than tear down. Offering constructive feedback focused on behavior and improvement rather than demoralizing criticism aimed at the person. Asking insightful, genuinely curious, open-ended questions that truly draw others out and show you value their perspective. And perhaps most importantly, genuinely listening to understand the other person's viewpoint, needs, and feelings, rather than just waiting impatiently for your turn to speak or formulating your rebuttal while they're talking.
Active listening, that's a skill many people lack.
A crucial and often underdeveloped skill. The ultimate goal of practicing positive communication is always aimed at creating a constructive, encouraging, psychologically safe, and highly collaborative environment. This involves specific techniques like active listening, nodding, paraphrasing, asking clarifying questions, sincerely affirming others' contributions and ideas, even if you don't fully agree, and strategically framing challenges or disagreements as shared opportunities for growth and problem solving rather than conflicts to be won. All these techniques are specifically designed to foster trust, open dialogue, mutual respect, and ultimately collective progress towards shared or individual goals.
This whole area, positive communication, building rapport, influencing ethically, it feels very much like the enduring legacy of Dale Carnegie, doesn't it? His principles seem to echo strongly here.
Oh, absolutely. The foundation for many of these practical influence techniques was truly laid down, or at least popularized for the modern era, back in the 1930s with seminal works like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a book that's still incredibly relevant today.
Still sells millions.
It does. Carnegie taught timeless principles of human connection, emphasizing things like genuine empathy, showing sincere appreciation, remembering people's names, and focusing on making others feel genuinely important and valued. These profound yet simple ideas are clearly echoed and perhaps refined in modern leadership trends of the 2020s. Today's effective leadership models increasingly emphasize emotional intelligence, authentic connection, servant leadership, and positive influence as critical skills, moving far beyond the traditional, outdated command and control style of management.
So Kopmeyer was tapping into principles that are now central to modern leadership theory.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how Kopmeyer seamlessly integrates these enduring principles of interpersonal dynamics into his broader, holistic framework of personal achievement. He explicitly recognizes that successfully influencing others positively isn't just a nice-to-have social skill. It's a direct, often indispensable pathway to achieving your own ambitious goals. It's the crucial social intelligence piece of the complex puzzle of success.
Do we have a compelling U.S. example of this positive influence at work? Something demonstrating its measurable impact in, say, a real-world organizational or team setting?
Yes, there's a good one. In 2025, a study looked at U.S. managers in Denver who actively and intentionally implemented positive communication techniques within their teams as a core part of their leadership strategy. This wasn't just about being generally friendly or throwing occasional pizza parties. It was a strategic approach.
What did it involve specifically?
It involved things like implementing systems for regular, specific recognition of individual and team effort and achievements, training themselves and their teams on giving and receiving feedback constructively, focusing on behavior and growth, actively fostering an environment where diverse ideas and even dissenting opinions were genuinely encouraged, listened to, and respectfully considered, creating what's known as psychological safety.
Making it safe to speak up.
Crucial for innovation and problem solving. And Harvard Business Review highlighted the results of this strategic approach. Teams led by these managers showed a significant boost in team morale measured through surveys and other metrics by a remarkable 25% compared to control groups.
25% jump in morale. That's huge for engagement and retention.
Absolutely huge. And morale is often directly linked to productivity, creativity, and lower turnover. This clearly shows the direct, measurable impact of leadership that strategically prioritizes positive influence on the overall organizational culture, employee engagement, and ultimately team performance and business results. It vividly illustrates that fostering a positive internal environment, primarily through thoughtful, empathetic communication, can directly lead to demonstrably better external outcomes and a much healthier, more productive workplace.
That's powerful evidence. Now, the audiobook's narration for a topic like this, which relies so heavily on understanding and applying nuanced interpersonal skills, sounds like it would need to be particularly engaging. How is it described?
It's vital for this topic. The summary notes the audiobook's engaging narration. And that word engaging is paramount here. To make concepts about influence and communication relatable and actionable, the delivery needs to feel authentic, empathetic, and connect emotionally with the listener. It can't sound like a dry lecture on communication theory.
Right, it needs to feel human.
Exactly. An engaging tone likely means the narrator uses vocal variety, perhaps tells relatable anecdotes or uses illustrative examples, and conveys a genuine understanding of the challenges and rewards of interacting positively with others. The summary suggests it offers practical exercises, maybe even brief role-playing scenarios described, or vivid examples of real-life conversations, contrasting positive and negative approaches, that help listeners actively develop these crucial communication and influence skills in their own minds.
So it helps you practice mentally.
Precisely. This approach directly showcases Kopmeyer's compelling strategies for enhancing leadership effectiveness and personal influence through positive means. It makes abstract social skills feel concrete, learnable, and immediately applicable in the listener's own life, effectively turning theory into practical, usable skills.
Okay, we've journeyed through self-investment, failure belief, mental techniques, persistence, habits, and positive influence. An incredible roadmap. Now we arrive at the final chapter covered in our deep dive summary, Chapter 10, Taking Action Now. How does Kopmeyer conclude his powerful guidance? Why is this final call to action the ultimate culmination of all the principles we've just spent time unpacking?
This chapter is the powerful, emphatic capstone to the entire philosophy. Kopmeyer brings everything together with a resounding, unambiguous conclusion. Immediate, decisive action is the ultimate culmination and the absolutely indispensable final step that activates all the previous principles we've discussed.
So everything else is just preparation.
Essentially, yes. Potential energy. All the intense belief, the vivid visualization, the disciplined habit building, the relentless persistence, the positive influence skills. He states unequivocally that they mean nothing, truly nothing, in terms of real-world results, without taking that crucial first step. And then the next one, and the one after that. He urges listeners, almost pleads with them, not to wait for the perfect moment, not to wait until they feel completely ready, not to wait for all the lights to be green.
Which might never happen.
Exactly. He advises starting small, if necessary, but crucially, starting fast. Get momentum going. Procrastination, he strongly implies, is the silent killer of progress, the most insidious enemy of dreams and ambitions. This final chapter serves as a powerful, unambiguous reminder that all the knowledge, intention, planning, and belief in the world are merely potential energy. Action, however imperfect, however small that first step might be, is what converts that potential into kinetic energy, into tangible, real-world results.
It's about bridging the knowing-doing gap.
Precisely that gap. It's about seizing the moment, overcoming inertia, which can be incredibly strong, and translating all that inspiration, all that preparation into immediate, consistent execution. Don't just think about it. Do it.
So the emphasis is really on momentum and initiation.
Yeah.
Getting the ball rolling, even if it's imperfect action, rather than getting stuck waiting for everything to be perfectly lined up or feeling 100% confident. What's the final driving activity he recommends to ensure this action actually happens and starts building that unstoppable momentum?
Exactly. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time, according to this philosophy. The final suggested activity is designed to kickstart exactly that. It's a 30-day action challenge.
Okay, a specific time frame challenge.
Yes. And importantly, this isn't necessarily about accomplishing some massive, overwhelming goal in 30 days, which could lead to burnout or feeling like a failure if you fall short. Instead, it's about committing to taking consistent, small, manageable actions every single day for a month, specifically related to your primary goal.
Small daily action.
Yes. The goal here is to build unstoppable momentum and, critically, to solidify the habit of acting, the habit of execution. This could be as simple as making just one phone call you've been dreading each day, or writing just one paragraph on that stalled project, or sending one difficult but necessary email, or taking one tiny, seemingly insignificant step toward a much larger goal, like researching one potential vendor or outlining one module of a course you want to create.
Breaking it down into tiny, non-intimidating steps.
Exactly. The profound power lies in the sheer consistency and the breaking down of large, intimidating ambitions into bite-sized, actionable daily tasks. This challenge creates a continuous positive feedback loop of accomplishment. I did my action today, which makes further action feel less daunting, more ingrained, and ultimately unstoppable. It's about systematically building a bias for action, overcoming that initial friction day by day until taking action becomes your default mode.
This sounds very, very much in line with modern productivity movements, and the whole emphasis on execution over endless planning or getting stuck in analysis paralysis, something so many people, myself included sometimes, struggle with.
Oh, it perfectly aligns. The 2010s productivity movement, heavily influenced by methodologies like David Allen's Getting Things Done, GTD.
Right, GTD focuses heavily on capturing tasks and identifying the next action.
Exactly. GTD heavily emphasized the importance of identifying and taking immediate, concrete, actionable steps, however small, to move projects forward and clear your mind of those open loops. This focus on relentless execution, on just doing the next thing, was then further amplified and popularized in the 2020s by things like popular hashtags, hashtag take action, hashtag execute, hashtag just start on platforms like X and LinkedIn. These trends relentlessly push for initiation, for building momentum, for overcoming analysis paralysis by simply starting, even before you feel fully ready.
So Kopmeyer's message is timeless in that regard.
Absolutely. He provides a timeless, urgent call to action that resonates powerfully across eras. He underscores that the most brilliant strategic plan, the deepest, most unwavering belief, the most positive intentions, and the best design habits are utterly worthless in terms of results without the courage and the discipline to simply start. His philosophy, while predating many of these modern movements, perfectly encapsulates their core, indispensable message. Just begin. Now.
And how did this powerful call to immediate action manifest in the U.S. context recently? Do we have a final example with demonstrable, quantifiable success that really highlights the impact of just getting started and executing consistently?
Yes, Forbes reported on a compelling case involving U.S. small business owners in Atlanta, Georgia in 2025. They really exemplified this taking action now principle with quite striking bottom-line results. Instead of waiting endlessly for perfect market conditions or for a fully polished, absolutely flawless product or for securing exhaustive, perfect funding.
The things that can delay starting forever.
Exactly, those classic procrastination traps. They actively launched new projects, new products, new services much earlier, perhaps in minimum viable product MVP form. They iterated quickly based on real customer feedback. They took immediate, decisive steps to bring their ideas to market, learning and adapting rapidly on the fly. This wasn't about being reckless or unprepared. It was about embracing the profound power of consistent, immediate execution and learning from real-world interaction rather than theoretical planning.
So, prioritizing action and learning over perfect preparation.
Precisely. And as a direct result of this proactive, action-oriented approach, these small business owners saw their average revenue grow by an impressive 28% within a relatively short time frame, significantly outpacing competitors who were perhaps slower to act. This wasn't about waiting for perfection. It was about the tangible, undeniable power of consistent, immediate execution. It proved that momentum often creates its own opportunities, and that done, even imperfectly done initially, is often far, far better than perfect, but never launched.
That 28% growth really underscores the cost of inaction, doesn't it? Now, the audiobook's ending, wrapping up this final call to action. It sounds like it's designed to leave you feeling fired up, ready to conquer the world, providing that final motivating push to actually apply everything you've just learned.
It's absolutely designed that way. The summary describes the audiobook's close as energizing. It's strategically crafted to highly motivate immediate action in the listener. It likely doesn't just passively reiterate the principle of taking action. It probably presents inspiring next steps, maybe a simple framework or a final challenge, and a clear, compelling pathway forward that makes the call to action feel incredibly empowering and genuinely achievable rather than overwhelming or guilt-inducing.
Not just go do it, but here's how you can start right now.
Exactly. It gives you that first step. This powerful ending reflects Kopmeyer's final, impactful message, truly pushing listeners to act immediately on their desires and on the knowledge they've just gained throughout the book, to translate all the belief, the visualization, the planning, the habit building, the persistence, to translate all of it into tangible, real-world results in their own lives. It's the ultimate impetus, the final nudge to begin the journey, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, today.
Wow. What an absolutely incredible deep dive into M.R. Kopmeyer's How to Get Whatever You Want. We've really unpacked so much. We've seen how investing in yourself is the foundation, how reframing failure turns setbacks into learning opportunities, how cultivating intense targeted belief acts as the fuel, how mastering powerful mental techniques like silent chants and mental pictures directs that energy, how building unwavering persistence and positive habits makes progress sustainable, how influencing others positively amplifies our efforts, and above all, how taking immediate, consistent action is the final essential key that unlocks the door. It really is a comprehensive framework for achievement.
It truly is, and what stands out again and again is the powerful reminder that our internal landscape, our beliefs, our thoughts, our habits, our mindset towards failure, and critically, our willingness to act consistently profoundly shapes our external reality and the results we ultimately achieve in life. The historical context we touched upon, showing how these core ideas have evolved yet persisted across decades, and those compelling recent U.S. examples which demonstrate their tangible, measurable impact in today's world. They really bring these timeless principles into sharp, practical focus for anyone listening right now. And this leads us, I think, to the final, most important question. A question for you, the listener, to really ponder and, more importantly, act upon.
Okay, what is it?
Which one of these powerful ideas we've discussed today resonates most deeply with you right now in your current situation? And based on that, what one specific, maybe small, but concrete action will you commit to implementing today, not tomorrow, today, to start getting whatever it is that you truly want?
That's a perfect, powerful, and practical challenge to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on BookPodCastZone for this incredibly insightful exploration. We genuinely hope this deep dive has given you not just interesting knowledge or ideas to think about, but real, actionable inspiration and maybe the courage you need to move forward on your own goals.
Hope it sparks something.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and perhaps most importantly, keep taking action.